You ever find yourself sitting in a room full of people and still feel like nobody really sees you? Not in a dramatic sense, not because you're unloved, but because something deeper, more fundamental, is out of sync. It's like looking around and realizing the picture doesn't quite add up. There's a glitch in how we connect now, like we're all speaking the same language, but none of the words are landing. It's not just about dating or relationships. It seeps into how we work, how we talk to our families, even how we see ourselves in the mirror. The whole emotional terrain has shifted, and nobody told us where the map went. Women aren't what they used to be, not in a nostalgic or judgmental way, but in a sense that something has been lost in translation. And before you flinch at that statement, hear this. This isn't an attack, it's a warning. One that a man named Carl Jung, a century ago, laid out with frightening clarity. He didn't predict social media or dating apps, but he understood people. He saw what happens when the soul gets disconnected from itself, when women stop embodying the feminine and men abandon the core of their masculinity. He called it archetypal imbalance. And that's where we are now. A world where the magnetic pull between men and women has turned into static. Connection has morphed into competition. And we're all losing. Look around. Conversations are battles of egos. Relationships are war zones dressed in romantic colors. Nobody wants to yield, but everyone wants to win. But win what? Loneliness? Emptiness? Another night of silence in a crowded room? Women, once deeply connected to their inner world, are now driven by a thirst for validation that no man can quench, because it's not love they're after. It's affirmation. Not from a partner, but from a faceless audience online, clapping for every curated moment, every filtered highlight. And on the other side, men have folded, trained to suppress, trained to smile, trained to stay agreeable while their soul shrinks inside them. Jung understood this fracture before the first Instagram filter was born. He knew that when a woman suppresses her femininity, she doesn't become strong. She becomes hardened, detached, masculinized in a way that doesn't build, only defends. And when a man disconnects from his inner fire, he becomes a hollow shell, polished on the outside, empty on the inside. And it's everywhere. The woman who can't hear you because she's too busy scripting her next line. The man who agrees with everything just to avoid another fight. It's not because they don't care. It's because they've forgotten how to be. We live in a world where rejection has been turned into identity. Independence has been twisted into avoidance. Nobody is reaching out, not really. They're performing. They're branding themselves as untouchable, as unbothered. But you know the truth. You've seen it. You've dated women who seemed perfect on paper, ambitious, confident, surrounded by admirers. But being next to them felt lonelier than being alone. Why? Because the soul wasn't there. Just a performance. Just a mask. Jung warned us. He said the shadow, the part of us we try to bury, will come back to haunt us if we don't integrate it. And that's what's happening. The female shadow is no longer hidden. It's been unleashed, but instead of being healed, it dominates. Women who are hurting, who were never allowed to cry, now inflict the same wound on others, not because they're cruel, but because that's the only language they were taught. And you, man, you felt it. You've adjusted. You've toned yourself down. You've stayed quiet when you wanted to speak. You've accepted less than you deserve, all because you were told that being too much, wanting too much, expecting more, was wrong. And what does that do? It breaks you. Slowly, quietly. You lose the pieces of yourself you once held sacred. You look in the mirror and wonder where you went. Jung would say you've betrayed your own essence, and your essence never forgets. Women today don't just want love, they want control. They want a strong man, but one they can tame. They want independence, but also want to be protected. It's confusion masquerading as confidence, and you're stuck in between, drawn in, then pushed away. Admired, then discarded. It's not your imagination. It's a collective crisis, a spiritual drought. We've lost the myth, the inner story, the symbolic map that tells us who we are and how to relate. We've turned intimacy into a transaction, connection into conquest, and deep down, everyone's starving. Jung said that without myth, without the soul's language, identity crumbles, and that's what's happened. We don't see each other anymore. We scan, we assess, we scroll. And what do you see in their eyes when the performance stops? Emptiness, restlessness, a fear of silence so loud they drown it out with noise, parties, likes, and more distraction. Because silence reveals the truth, and the truth terrifies. You can't fix it for them. That's not your job. You're not here to save anyone. You're here to save yourself, to return to what is real inside you. Because this isn't just a dating issue. It's a crisis of self, a slow death of authenticity. And unless you go inward, unless you reclaim the fire that doesn't bend for applause or twist itself into what's trendy, you'll stay lost. Women too are lost, but until they choose to face themselves, you cannot do it for them. Jung would remind you that individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, is the only path forward. That's why there isn't much to choose from, because few have walked the inner path. Few have looked into their own eyes long enough to see past the mask. And the scariest part? Most people don't even know they're wearing a mask. They've worn it so long it feels like skin. You've felt that in others, the disconnection, the lack of soul. But what about you? Have you dulled yourself to fit into someone else's idea of okay? Have you shrunk your voice to keep the peace? Because that, my friend, is where the real war is being fought, not in the world, but in your heart. And yet, there's something in you that's still alive. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be listening. That part of you that aches, that feels like it's suffocating in a world of noise, that's your truth trying to break free. Don't numb it. Don't run from it. Follow it. Because that ache is sacred. It's your compass. And when you listen to it, you remember who you are. Jung said the one who looks outside dreams, but the one who looks inside awakens. So stop looking for the woman who will complete you. Stop chasing the fantasy. Start becoming the man who no longer needs completion, because he is already whole. That is when the right woman, the true partner, appears. Not as a savior, but as an equal. Not to fill a void, but to share in your fire. This is just the beginning of your return. The path is long, yes. It's lonely. It will demand parts of you that have been asleep for years. But it's the only way. Because staying asleep, pretending, performing, dimming your light for acceptance, that is the true death. Not the one that puts you in the ground, but the one that buries your soul while your body walks around. So wake up, not with fear, with fire. You remember those moments when everything seemed fine on the outside, but something inside you just didn't sit right? Like you're laughing with friends, making plans, moving through your life, but there's a persistent hum of unease beneath it all. That's not anxiety. That's your soul whispering that something is missing, not in the world around you, but inside. And yet, most people don't stop long enough to hear it. They rush past it, drown it in distractions, mask it with noise, with approval, with the next hit of digital attention that feels like love but fades like smoke. And we've all played along. We've all adjusted our tone, our truth, our expectations just to belong. But at what cost? That voice inside, that fire, it doesn't die quietly. It starts to show up as restlessness, as irritability, as a hollow ache that no amount of affection can touch. And that's where the real breakdown begins. Not in your job, not in your relationship, but in the slow erosion of yourself. You've felt it when someone looked at you, not with presence, but with calculation. Measuring your value, gauging your utility, not seeing you, just scanning you. That's not human connection. That's a transaction. And in a world obsessed with appearances, we've forgotten how to truly see each other, how to sit with someone and just be. No expectations, no performance, just presence. But we're terrified of that level of honesty because it strips away the armor. It demands that we show up as we are, not as we wish to be perceived. That's why most relationships don't fail from conflict. They fail from absence, from being physically present, but emotionally vacant, from touching bodies without touching souls. And the scariest thing? We've normalized it. We've accepted that half connection is all we deserve. That numbness is just part of being an adult. But that's a lie, a dangerous one, because it convinces you to lower your standards, not just for others, but for yourself. Jung talked about how what you don't face within becomes your fate. Think about that. Every insecurity you bury, every fear you avoid, every truth you silence, it doesn't disappear. It steers your life from the shadows. It picks your partners. It shapes your choices. It whispers in your ear at night when the world is quiet, and you wonder why you feel stuck. It's not because you're weak. It's because you're not listening. The modern world has built a system where attention is currency, where identity is curated, where authenticity is rare because it doesn't sell as well as fantasy. And in that chase for relevance, for visibility, we've lost intimacy. We've traded being known for being noticed. But being noticed doesn't fill you. It inflates you briefly, like air in a balloon, and then it leaves you craving the next puff. That's the sickness Jung tried to warn us about. A soul sickness. A culture-wide amnesia of who we are. Women parading as empowered, but aching inside. Men performing strength while silently breaking. And in this theater of strength and independence, vulnerability has become taboo. But without vulnerability, there is no love, only strategy. Only power games dressed as romance. You know the kind. The dance where nobody says what they feel. Where connection is a competition of who cares less. Where every move is calculated, every silence a weapon. That's not love. That's warfare, emotional warfare. And we've gotten so used to the rules of this game, we forgot there was ever another way. There was. A way where two people meet as equals, not because they need each other, but because they see each other. Really see, where the goal isn't control but creation, not dominance but depth. But to get there, we have to unlearn almost everything we've been taught about strength, about success, about relationships. We have to stop chasing someone else's definition of what it means to be a man or a woman and start asking deeper questions. Who am I when no one's watching? What do I truly want? Not from others, but from myself. Because the truth is, most people are not rejecting you. They're reacting to their own pain, their own confusion, their own unhealed wounds. And once you see that, once you stop taking it personally, everything changes. You stop begging for connection. You start building it within. You stop trying to be chosen. You start choosing yourself. And from that place, real power emerges. Not the kind that controls, but the kind that grounds. This isn't about blaming women or exalting men. It's not about sides. It's about the soul. About reclaiming what we lost when we chose ease over depth, approval over truth. And yes, it's hard, it's isolating. But it's also the most honest journey you'll ever take. Because when you stop chasing shadows, when you sit with your silence, when you feel the full weight of your own presence, you realize that the emptiness inside you was never a flaw. It was a space waiting to be filled by you, not by another person, not by likes or titles, but by your own essence. And here's the paradox. Once you fill that space, once you become whole, you're no longer desperate for someone to complete you. And in that space of strength, the right people come. Not because you need them, but because you attract from truth, not fear. Because wholeness isn't loud, it doesn't perform, it just is. And that, in a world addicted to noise, is revolutionary. And now here you are, still quiet and more awake than you've been in a long time. Not because something new was revealed, but because something ancient inside you stirred. That pulse in your chest? That's not emotion. That's memory. You've known this truth all along. You just needed the silence to hear it again. So take it with you, not as a thought, but as a vow, to stop shrinking, to stop waiting, to live from the core of who you are without apology. Because once you do, the world around you changes, not magically, but undeniably. Not all at once, but forever.